Alrighty, we are live. We are live, and hopefully the audio is coming through good and crispy. So right now, checking out. Excellent audio is coming through. Yes, excellent. And welcome to everyone. Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are at. It is right now a rainy, wintry day over here in the desert, and I am so happy about that. We got Shade here. Great to have you here, Shade, even though I know you're right now for about 5 minutes. Expect to see you again soon. And Denise Martinez Escobedo is here. Hola. Great to have you here. And Arch just dropped in. Hey-o. Awesome. Awesome. Say, whew, man, I'm just going to open up all right here in the very first minute of this live stream and say it was not on my bingo card for another glitch show to be announced. I thought that if there was even a chance for a show that was going to be a Glitch Presents show, that's not what we got here. And suddenly now I'm like, I think we need to rethink what's been going on behind the scenes at Glitch, and not in a bad way, but actually in a really, really good way. It means that the success that the company has been enjoying has been even greater than I suspected, or that I've even been able to calculate in some of my previous videos, looking at the possible finances behind behind the company and the different shows that they've been making. Like, this is really, really cool. Plus, also GameOverse immediately spoke to me, because if you have read any of my really big stories, like looking at the Legend of the Ten Lords or Monarch Mercenaries, this is basically a video game version of the stuff that I write, stuff that I really enjoy writing. So I'm like, yes, that's exactly. This is something that I've wanted to see on the screen for so long. So I'm really excited. And Sart says, strike when the iron is hot. Disney is weak. Strike at the jugular. And I've recently been getting comments from people going back to some of my older videos, being all like, well, Glitch has said that they're not going up against Disney. And it's like, true. Glitch has not said, hey, we're going to take Mickey's head by the end of the year. But they are in competition against the House of Mouse by the pure fact that they're competing for eyeballs and attention and money against whatever Disney and all the other big companies are throwing out. And Glitch keeps doing really, really well. Now, is it big blockbusters good where they're able to just rake in hundreds of millions of dollars? No, not quite. Nope, definitely not that much. However, that being said, it's very clear with Glitch now taking on yet another show. That means 4 different shows are in the works to varying degrees right now, done by a little indie company. That is pretty massive. That means that for them, they are absolutely riding the high tide. And that's something that we really need right now. Not just because Glitch is awesome, but it is honestly a massive boost for indie animation. And I think something that's really positive at a time where plenty of other creators are beginning to say, maybe I should throw in the towel now. And I'm like, no, you don't want to throw in the towel now, because like, this is the exciting time. This is the exciting moment where things are truly changing. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to revisit one of the videos that I released recently, which I know not a whole lot of people have seen it, so I'm just kind of taking a second bite at the apple, but it's a very, very important message of how the entertainment industry as a whole, from cinema to books to comics to shows, how it is all changing, and it looks very awful, to be blunt. It looks like everything is about to go belly up and just die, and yet signs of life are absolutely everywhere. And Glitch is one of those bright, shining stars. It's kind of acting, I think, as a bit of a guiding star for what the possibilities truly are, and is an exercise in perseverance and passion. And so Murder Drones footage makes a return. Oh, yeah, because we're talking about Glitch. So, of course, I got to pull out the Murder Drones footage, because Murder Drones absolutely plays a huge role in how GameOverse can even exist. it's not just the amazing digital circus doing all of the heavy lifting. I mean, it is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but Murder Drones is absolutely an important part to Glitch's success. And Lucid Star Mel says, I finally watched the trailer. It kind of reminds me of Freedom Planet and that other show, but it was canceled. That Adult Swim show that was supposed to be greenlit. R says, why would you make yourself obvious to Disney as a competitor? I mean, there are those who want to. Angel Studios really wants to take on Disney, but they have no confidence in themselves to be able to take on Disney, take Disney head on. So one of the reasons why the David movie got so little advertising and traction, I think that for what it was, it did well enough. But like they were talking about how they were going to take on Disney, and then the moment that they looked at the lineup, they're like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to take on Disney. We're just going to release this and be very, very quiet about it." Tyler Gibbons says, "I'm very happy that Banjo and Kazooie composer Grant Kirkhope and Shantae and Shovel Knight composer Jane Kaufman will score GameOverse." Okay, I know I'd heard those names before. Thank you for putting that into context there, Tyler. Yeah. You know, and I just got to say this, the big names that they are bringing on for this new show again demonstrates just how relevant indie animation is becoming. That big names are all like, we want to be a part of this. We want to be a part of the people that are doing some crazy, inventive, fun things. We want to be a part of what we see as kind of the future. And just the fresh creative ideas, because the entertainment industry, generally speaking, the established players in it have just really dropped the ball. So with that being said, oh yeah, also, if you haven't already checked it out, we've started up a new playlist on our channel for writing lessons. We are going to start releasing actual concentrated lessons beyond just simply what we do here on the live streams, to have as resources for all of you creators. So that way it's something that you can reference and hopefully use again and again as you need in order to improve your own writing. So I do want to come back to that particular lesson maybe a little bit later. But what do you guys? What should we do? Should we dive immediately into the Gameoverse and see what we can pull out of the very brief glimpse that we've been given, or shall I dive yet again into what on earth is happening with the entertainment industry? Either one sets up the other. So it's like you can't choose wrong, but I want to see what people are feeling. Where should we go first? Should we immediately dive into Gameoverse, or shall I continue to set the table, set the stage by talking about what the hey is going on with the entertainment industry? Or says, when you released that last video, I thought I missed a live stream and then I noticed the length. Yeah, say we talked about it as a harem, and we said that we really needed to have actual writing lessons that people could go back and refer to. As fun as it is, I love doing the analyses, the theories, the reviews. All of that is really good, and it's a way of seeing writing put into practice. I think it is essential that we do have those actual conversations of how one writes. And it's thanks, for instance, to Lucid Star Mellows asking if we could do a video about finding again that energy and the will to tell your stories. And I think that was personal for me. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's do that. Scott and I have already recorded the audio for the next lesson, which was again another suggestion from last week, which is how do you turn ideas into stories. And that was a really, really fun back and forth. So I'm hoping that people really enjoy that particular lesson as well. It's going to be way longer than the one I posted today because Scott and I had a whole lot to talk about, and a lot of really, really good insights and ideas for how to implement ideas. that are not all just from me. I know sometimes I can be overbearing and talk too much. Scott has a ton of great stuff to offer. Yep, dust off that old typewriter from the cold attic. And where I'm at, it's going to be the hot attic, and I don't think I have a typewriter up there. But when I was a teacher, I came across a bunch of really old typewriters that were in the that were actually in the history department of all things. And I was like, I wonder if I could get these to work again. That'd be something. So what are we feeling? Shall we dive immediately into GameOverse, or do you want to hear me continuously pontificate about the state of the storytelling industry and kind of expand a little bit on what we see going on there? Again, both of these actually complement the other, and it's going to set up two other videos that I intend to do, looking at where Glitch is right now versus Disney, because that's one that people have requested, and then also talking about the opportunities that no one else is really focusing on right now, that I think that we as creators need to kind of seize and say, look, the opportunities are right there in front of us. We just got to take them. Sar says, let's talk about the storytelling industry. All right, perfect. So, the storytelling industry and how fast food is so damn expensive. Oh my gosh. Let's just be honest. Tariffs. Things are just getting expensive, and it's ridiculous. And it's one of those things that makes it really frustrating for independent creators right now, because it's becoming harder and harder to justify working on a hobby or working on a passion project when you really now need to work harder than ever in order to make ends meet. And that is actually one of the things that's undercutting the entertainment industry as we know it right now, that people are tightening the belts. And so there's not as much money as there once was to go around. And that is not good for especially Hollywood, which has not yet figured out how to do things on a budget. The very concept of, work on a budget went out the window about 2 decades ago. And they're just so used now to these grandiose budgets with very frivolous spendings, especially on CGI, where they don't need CGI. Oh man, some of the stories I've heard where they're all like, "Oh, look at that! There's something in the background that we don't like, that we don't want to have there. Okay, we'll just edit that out in post." And then one guy on the set dragged a potted plant just a few feet over to cover up the camera's perspective of the thing they wanted edited out. They wanted the potted plants. They were fine with the potted plants. Like, there you go. I literally just saved you $5,000 by moving a potted plant. Oh boy. Anyways, so yeah, let's just be honest, with the way economics are right now, it's not as though people have copious amounts of money or time to devote to creative projects and endeavors. And the thing is, and this is combined actually with something that is very positive for independent and novice creators like ourselves, there are all of these opportunities now for other people to get their work out there. Glitch is tiny in comparison to almost any Hollywood studio you can name. They really are. And yet they're cranking out all of these shows that you can watch with a lot of merch that they expect you to buy in order to help fund their projects. And if you're like me, I'm just right now looking around my office area. I've got 1, 2, 3 posters. I've got the acrylic window of V going off against one of the up against one of the Sentinels. I have like 5 different plushies, and so yeah, like I've spent money on that stuff. And let's be honest, it's not always the most cheap. And so buying a plushie, for instance, or buying a poster, that's money that I could have spent on a movie ticket that now I'm not putting towards a movie because there's things in the theater I just don't feel like seeing. So Hollywood is in a situation now where they are competing with all these other contenders, even small ones, and they can't pull in the money like they once did. And that's causing them to freak out. And rather than getting bold and creative, inventive, it's causing them now to double down on the assured wins. These are, let's just keep on making sequels to Toy Story. Let's just keep on making more and more MCU content. I don't mind the comic book movies. I really don't. But the age of the big blockbuster superhero movie is pretty much done for now, unless you know that you've got a real banger on your hands. So, yeah, just constantly relying on the superheroes now is kind of an outdated strategy. The constant sequels, the constant remakes. I mean, we've got another He-Man Masters of the Universe reboot coming out. That means in the past decade, we've had She-Ra, we've had one animated version of He-Man, and now we're getting a live action He-Man. And I think there was also another He-Man somewhere in that mix. But at least three different Masters of the Universe spin-offs or remakes or reboots all coming out within 10 years. And you know what? He-Man is fine and fun and everything, but that's a lot of rehashing of He-Man that in a very short amount of time. And speaking to a not necessarily a younger audience ready to buy tons of He-Man toys, but to an older audience from the 80s and 90s that are going to immediately complain that it's not just the 80s cartoon with better animation. With some younger viewers who are going to be like, "Ooh, this seems cool." But again, if you're like, "Oh, you're going to buy a new He-Man toy from Netflix, or are you going to buy a Pomni plush?" I think at least the people who are here right now would probably buy a Pomni plush rather than going and getting a He-Man toy that's probably going to break if you use it more than 3 times. You mean the Kevin Smith He-Man cartoon? Yes, that's the one. Omega says, if you're going to reboot something, then do something interesting then. I mean, He-Man, I would argue, is interesting, but they just keep doing things like He-Man. Or why do we keep on getting Smurf movies? In fact, I was actually thinking about this today at work. I was like, you know what? I love the Smurfs. Like, the original cartoon Smurfs are so much fun. And there's some really intense early episodes of the Smurfs as well. There's actually a fantastic horror episode where the Smurfs mess around with time. It is one of the creepiest episodes. I rewatched it recently with my oldest sister, and we were like getting goosebumps. We were like, oh my gosh, this is so messed up. And it's so cool. Idris Elba as Man of Arms is inspired casting, though. Hey, Idris Elba is a fantastic actor. You could put him in as He-Man and I'd watch it. But yeah, it's just when I look at all of these Smurf reboots and Smurf sequels, it's like, you know what? Smurfs is great. And it's not that people wouldn't like the Smurfs, but you need to do like a good Smurf story. And all of these dumb live action or really cheap CGI Smurf movies just aren't cutting it. If you want to do Smurfs, you got to go back and just do actual 2D animation and get back to just the funny hijinks of these Smurfs doing silly things, living a pseudo-communist life that is just like breaking apart at the seams if it wasn't for Papa Smurf somehow magically fixing everything, and then Gargamel trying to eat the Smurfs every other episode. The last Smurfs movie trailer I watched looked just so cringe. Exactly. The original Smurfs, though, is just a ton of fun. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe we don't need Smurf movies. Just make like a 10-episode Smurf show and see where that goes. If you could get the people behind Hilda to do like a Smurf season 1, that would probably do really, really well. And just thinking about how like Hollywood's like, no, we don't want to do new stuff. I recently was rewatching Hilda season 1, and I was like, this is just such a feel-good show. Granted, there's a lot of spooky stuff that happens, and it's a little intense at times, but it's such a good show. Holy cow. And it was a very bold choice. Netflix wanted to axe Hilda at least twice, and it was thanks to fan love and reaction that they were like, fine, 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 you're going to get more Hilda. And even though the final season of Hilda is a little disappointing, maybe a lot disappointing, depending on how you view it, is still such a good show. And if it had been better marketed, better marketed, and also tap a little bit into the comic books, selling of the comic books, selling of the merch, then Hilda could have been a very lucrative venture for Netflix. You bumbling, bombastic buffoons! Skeletor, probably. Heck, one of the old kings was voiced by the original Skeletor when he took the powers of Havoc. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool casting. Yeah, and here's again, He-Man is perfectly fine, and I'm interested in how this new He-Man plays out. But it's just, again, knowing this is like the third or fourth iteration of Masters of the Universe in 10 years. Hollywood, can you not come up with something different? Hello, sir. How's your day treating you? It's been a good day. A little bit of a slow day at work, hunting down fiber cables, but it's right now raining, which makes me very happy. Being a desert rat and all. But yeah, so Hollywood focuses on the reboots, the remakes, and the sequels and the prequels because they're like, we know that this one property was or is very popular, so we're just going to keep on coming back to it again and again and again. Like the Hunger Games. Okay, I actually like the prequel, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but you can't just keep on returning to it again and again and again. Stop beating this dead horse into glue. The original books, the original movies were great. I love them. And the prequel actually ended up being pretty good. That made me very happy to see. I've been told that the book is a little bit iffy. But please just let it go, please. And then I'm actually interested in how the Harry Potter series plays out, because I really want to see what a faithful adaptation of the books would look like in long form, meaning like throughout a long show. And because that would give me Peeves the Poltergeist, which is one of my favorite characters, more Quidditch hijinks, that stuff I really want to see, but I don't know if HBO and Warner Brothers are actually going to give that to me. I just don't know, because Hollywood keeps dropping the ball on all their reboots and remakes and sequels and prequels, and it's just Arts. How I wish comic books were sold in places like grocery stores again. I've read them since I was 13, and seeing them slowly die has been disheartening. It is pretty disheartening. And that leads me already to say this, is that we can't just rely on how the industry has run this whole time. It's changing. And we as creators need to be able to change with the times. And right now is a great moment to do so. Rehashing franchises eventually makes the series stale and disenchant what made it popular in the first place. I agree. I agree, Guy. And now what was good. So coming back to one of the videos that I recently released talking about this, I bring up how very, very interconnected all of this stuff is. It's very easy to rat on Hollywood, but as Art's brought up, comics have changed. We've kind of seen comics really take a back seat. And it's not just comics and movies, but it's publishing as well. It's video games. It's television. All of this stuff is changing. And while people are saying streaming is the future, I don't see it that way. I know Netflix really wants that to be the case, but that can't always be the answer. Streaming is just basically evolving into another version of cable, and that will eventually be superseded by something else. It is only a blip in the future. And what we need to do as creators, we need to think about, okay, well, what is success to me? What is it that I actually want to accomplish? And once you have that in mind, you can start figuring out how you might want that to look, how you can make that happen. Yeah, it's true. Times change and we have to change with them. Yeah, we really do. And here's the thing is that if you embrace the change, you also get to choose what can stay the same, at least to a certain extent. So, for instance, with me and with publishing, yeah, I would love to be traditionally published. Self-publishing is rough. It's difficult, but it gives me the creative freedom to tell the stories I want the way that I want, like combining the artwork I want to have in there and everything. It then comes down to how can I make this viable and not just a very expensive hobby? Because if you're writing and publishing these books and especially getting good artwork for it, that does build up a cost. That does get expensive. So you got to be able to figure out, okay, how we make this work. And Donovan says, "Good thing the He-Man reboot was directed by Kubo and the Two Strings and Bumblebee. I bet it will be good. And Skeletor was great in live action." And Guy says, "Adapting to the times is easier said than done, and chasing trends doesn't guarantee success. I say doubling down on what you want to do is more satisfactory payoff." And I agree with that. Chasing trends will not get you what you want. I actually just watched a funny little short of a guy who takes his orange cat and just kind of holds it there, and this cat is just derpy and just planks and goes bleh, meow 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 bleh. And he said, "Look, there's like all these people who are trying to like be knockoffs of me." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's just sadly that won't work because there's hundreds of other people who are doing the exact same thing. And if you want to try to like copy another really famous person who's getting like 3 million views, but you only get 300, that's because you're trying to be them. You have to be yourself. But you also need to understand how you can make your vision succeed." And so again, kind of coming back to like what's the state of the general entertainment industry? It's so interconnected. Hollywood isn't necessarily the force anymore that pushes it all, but they have been for a long time where Hollywood's like, okay, we need big blockbuster movies. They're going to make us tons of money. Let's use something that's already very popular. We will use this show. We will use this already existing book series. We will use this already existing video game franchise. So Mario Brothers, Sonic, Game of Thrones, the Da Vinci Code, Avengers, all this stuff. And so Hollywood's like, give that to us, give that to us, give that to us. And the understanding was, if you hand over to Hollywood this really good franchise or this really great story that people love, Hollywood will reward you handsomely for allowing them to have it. They will make their adaptation. People will love the adaptation, and then they will come and they will buy your stuff. So it was a win-win-win. Everyone wins. The fans get a movie which they really enjoy. Hollywood makes big money, and people go and spend whatever money they have left over after buying ridiculously priced popcorn and drinks to then go buy the book, the video game, the comic book, the action figure, what have you. And so it would all work out really well. But this comes back around to what I said, with economics being what they are now, people don't have a whole lot of money on hand to just throw at whatever. So it makes it difficult then for this particular arrangement to continue. Yet it's what Hollywood continues to double down on, and also publishing houses and comic book houses, and even to a certain extent video games and social media, because we also need to include social media in on all of this. It's no longer just Hollywood publishing houses, video game companies, but also all the public platforms from YouTube to Twitter to Instagram and everything else. those are places where people can create, where they can share stories, where they share their thoughts and what's coming out, where they recommend things, so on and so forth. It's all now so interconnected. And this is then where one of the worst things gets dropped onto us, and that is AI. And I just happen to have the perfect little video right here that I saw today. Tired of AI slop? Enjoy a pig chowing down on slop. AI has thrown another unexpected wrench into everything by saying, okay, so if you want to live up to the predatory algorithms, if you want to remain trendy, if you want to be able to connect with people, if you want to be able to crank stuff out fast, you need our engines, which will steal other people's stuff in order to create content for you. And so people just go and tappity tap tap tappity tap tap tappity tap tap tappity tap tap into these engines. Stuff gets stolen, stuff gets cranked out, and then boom, it just floods the algorithms, and it's overwhelming. And so not only now we have the combination of Hollywood is just no longer original with this whole arrangement of we will take from other parts of the entertainment industry in order to create our shows. Oh, but wait, the economics aren't really lining up anymore. And now you throw in AI being used unresponsibly. It is just the perfect storm of negatives to create this environment where Hollywood, it does not have the money it once did. They absolutely do not. They still have all the glitz and glam, but it's very much a facade. There's so much debt. Things are becoming monopolized, which is not good for creativity. Monopolies are not good for economics, and they are not good for creativity, because once only one or two people own everything, there is no reason to be inventive because you have no competition. And that's one of the absolute biggest problems I see right now already emerging when it comes to Hollywood. There's nothing now to really stop the lack of competition. There's nothing to really recharge the fun and the joy, the need for inventiveness, other than, well, actually indie animation, indie studios, people going against the grain, like Glitch Productions, in order to make these great shows, and to really go against Hollywood. Anyways, that was a little rambly tangent right there. I says, I want to be required by law for work to be labeled if it uses AI and what the AI was used for. ISO, I 100% agree. I would love that. And there are some people who are there are some studios and some companies that are beginning to require that, and I hope that becomes the standard in the future. Yeah, this is just this rampant use of AI is just bad. Now, where this puts us is because since Hollywood is losing money, and this leads then to just a handful of people now gobbling up everything, Disney gobbling up everything, Netflix gobbling up everything, Skydance gobbling up everything, the competition is just no longer there. The need for these companies to really be creative, to be bold, daring, to go above and beyond, to really please the audience is just no longer there. And they've got their noses so high up in the sky that they're not paying attention to the fact that Glitch is there taking their lunch money. And not just Glitch, but plenty of other creators as well who are beginning to kind of rise up through the ranks, who are making names for themselves in all different kinds of ways. And so because they're not paying attention, they continuously just perpetuate the arrangement that should be working for them, but isn't because the creativity is now going out the window. An over-reliance on AI, the need to fulfill an algorithm. Hollywood itself and publishers basically are trying to somehow catch up with an algorithm that has already changed by the time that they have made their choice of what the next big franchise is. And especially when you come on then on over to publishing. So, like, one of the reasons why publishing is in such a sorry state from within, from without, oh, there's all these other issues as well. But from within, publishing houses are not bringing in as much money as they once did. They now need big deals in order to make things work out. Talking to Hollywood, talking to video game companies, trying to get some of that big money on in there and infuse it. They then use that money to kind of cast a wide net, bring in authors to find the next big selling author, find the next George R. Martin. They're all searching for the next George R. Martin. Really, they should be looking for the next Brandon Sanderson. But they're all chasing for the next George R. Martin. And when they then find a series that seems to be doing really, really well, they just go full hog on that. They're like, okay, we must promote this series out the wazoo in order to make as much money as possible. So that way Hollywood recognizes us and gives us even more money. And that way then we can use this money to then invest in other authors and then try to find the next big thing. That is how publishing houses think. The problem is that also then getting thrown into the mix is, again, not just AI, but also that laziness in writing has now become accepted. One of the things I said in my video about the change in the entertainment industry is that who won the culture wars? Woke versus conservative? Bad writing. Neither woke, neither conservative won. Bad writing won out. Laziness won out. And and that's where we are. And people recognize that. And so they're not very interested in picking up books anymore. Because they're like, it's just the same derivative slop. Not either it's AI slop now, which is beginning to flood the market, or it's just the slop of laziness. I don't want it. Combine that then with the outside effects of falling literacy, just across the board, unfortunately, with this push for instantaneous gratification, which a book can never give you instantaneous gratification. Oh, I beg to differ. But that is how books are pushed these days by so many people. That why would I read a book when I can watch a YouTube short? Oh, let me guess, because a book can actually take you to another place, unlike a YouTube short. Books last way longer than shorts, are way more gripping when written well, can introduce you to amazing characters that you will come to love, take you to other places and worlds, make you see things that you never would have thought of on your own. That actually makes you smarter to read a book. Oh, it actually does. But alas, that is not how books these days are being pushed. However, that being said, that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who love books. In fact, I'll be going to the Tucson Festival of Books in March. You guys can come and see me on March 14th if you manage to make it to Tucson, Arizona. If you manage to make it to Tucson, Arizona on March 14th, you can come to the U of A and you can actually meet me in person over at the Children's Pavilion, where I will be selling my books, Puss in Boots and the Dark Riddles, The White Snake, and Notice Me Send Pie. And that is the nation's largest book fair. It is massive, with honestly a couple 100,000 people arriving for just one weekend to check out books. And so there's just books everywhere, people buying books. People still love books, but people are looking for good stories, which is why we here at Camille's Harem, that's what we advocate for, telling a good story and how exactly you get there. Art says, AI can be useful if you use it responsibly, but I don't see that happening. AI can be, and we do use AI tools such as spell check, but always make sure that you double check the spell check, because spell check gets things wrong, or especially the grammar check gets things wrong. Guy says artistry dies when guarantee is prioritized over risk. Amen. I love that. ISO. That being said, I do really appreciate good AI work. Just recently, I found some amazing AI generated music videos. And there is some very interesting AI stuff that is out there. It can be used in creative ways. Like, I'm not going to say all AI is just absolutely evil. Just the problem is just the over reliance on it. The fact that people aren't credited, that their work gets stolen, and that, quite honestly, most people who do use AI are not using it very creatively. They are using it for that cheap, really quick, I want to get what I want right now, rather than going through the ennobling process of creating on their own. Shade says AI is menace to society, especially for gaming PC, and in my opinion, the only good use of AI research history. Actually, I would not use AI for research. I have had to use AI for research in my job over at Biosphere 2. And there are so many times where AI has given me the wrong information. Did you record one of my playthroughs of Chapter 2's Teacup Ride? Oh, I hit those obstacles so many times. I did too. Oh, man. That teacup ride was worse than actually fighting Spamton. Chris would probably use YouTube Shorts to prank Noel somehow. Oh, absolutely. I would love to see that. I would say one of my favorite things I've ever done for a Deltarune fanfic is actually making Chris a gamer on YouTube. Because it's like, actually, I feel like that works for them somehow. Like, I could absolutely see Chris being a gamer, and Birdley being very jealous. So yeah, the thing is that, just to sum it all up, the entertainment industry as it is right now, the money isn't quite there. Everyone is chasing trends and chasing algorithms, trying to find the next big thing rather than focusing on what matters, telling a good story. And when you then add in elements like AI, the decline in literacy, the chase for trends, the chase for money, monopolization, all of this stuff, it really, really hurts the overall creative process. And it even hits people like us here on YouTube, where we are subjugated to these trends, to these algorithms that punish us if we don't do what they think is going to get the most ad revenue. And as a result, it really is hard for people on YouTube to do well. Twitter, if you want to make money on Twitter, it's pay to play. It takes advantage of you. You go to any other site like Instagram or to Blue Sky, where you can also monetize your things. It's the exact same way. And so it just feels very crushing. Shade says, I disagree with you, Lars. I don't think that this is a great time for animation. The reason is the economy and the weather. And again, I would disagree with that. The reason why I disagree with that is because despite all of these challenges, people are still persevering. One of the things I said when I was breaking down why the Lord of the Rings is still just so dang good, why it works so well after all this time, is because it was the perfect combination of patience and passion. And thanks to I'm Omega, for instance, introducing me to No Evil. No Evil's been going on for so long. That is a passion project. That story just continues to go on because the people behind it absolutely love it, even though they're using what people would consider now an outdated art style. But yet it works. I also recently came across another passion project by a very, very low tier animator called Mammal Squad. Holy cow! It's so good. It's so good, and it's so low quality, but it's so good. And it reminds me of Hoodwinked. The movie Hoodwinked? Oh my gosh, if you want to like enjoy a movie because of the budget behind it, Hoodwinked is not that movie. Hoodwinked does not have a budget to speak of for itself. Holy cow. But Hoodwinked had so much passion behind it, with just great writing. Holy cow. If you haven't seen Hoodwinked, absolutely look it up. It is a hilarious spoof of fairy tales in general, but specifically looking at Little Red Riding Hood. So much fun. And also, actually, really random thought and tangent right here, but I've almost entirely caught up now with Games Are Murder. To me, Games Are Murder, which is a very underappreciated manhwa, and the main character, Boink the Big Bad Wolf. And I'm like, wow, I did not see that coming. Anyway. Yes, it is still a very underappreciated manhwa. But again, if you can marry together passion and perseverance, all kinds of things begin to open up to you. And then it is, as Guy said, it's all about then living up to what your dream is. You want to write, you want to do comics? No one is stopping you from making your own comic. Now, getting that comic into the hands of other people might be a little bit difficult, which is where being able to get savvy with social media, or also finding the right kinds of forums where you can share that stuff, and just really honestly sharing in general really takes you very far. And then again, for someone like me, independent publishing, sure, it can be a real hassle. It comes down then to me to, again, share, find out creative ways to get my books into the hands of other people. You want to make it big on YouTube? Well, the algorithm might say no to you, but that doesn't mean you can't still make really good videos, or videos that at least you enjoy making. Some of the videos that have done really well on this channel are things that I never thought would have done well. And yet they did. One of the video that I did for Villainous, and especially looking at Miss Heed, did better than Saber Spark's video about Miss Heed. That's wild. That is wild. How the heck did I beat a guy like Saber Spark? Granted, with one video. You never know where success is going to come, and the only way that you will ever find it is if you just keep plugging and chugging away. That passion and perseverance, which is something that is not had by so much of the entertainment industry, who are just looking to get money. The passion is not there. The perseverance really isn't there. This is why they just keep coming back to the same old again and again and again. Shade says, you need to give up your dream. Hollywood will be in the cycle of sequels and reboots. That's what do you think about Jujutsu Kaisen 3's episode 4? The animation was crazy. I haven't yet sat down to watch Jujutsu Kaisen season 3. As you already know my opinion, Shade, the upcoming arc in the manga sucks. So when I finally sit down to watch the anime, I have high hopes that the anime rectifies the incessant breaking of the plot and pacing to over-explain stuff. So, if the anime can avoid that big pitfall, it will already be leaps and bounds, mountains beyond where the manga is. The reason why comics are dying first, because they are not like manga. What I mean is comics when they adapt a story. I would disagree with you there. Manga, I think, really captures a lot of people's attention because of how inventive and bold a lot of these stories are. And there's just so many different variations. The manga industry cranks out so much material. I would argue even too much material. And it's highly competitive. There's so many great stories that just get axed way too soon. Like Odor of the Flame. Oh man, that's just such a disappointment. Or Hunter's Guild. But with that being said, manga just has such a wide variety that can appeal to so many different people. If you didn't like one story, I guarantee there's another story out there that you'll enjoy. And if you don't like the art style, there's so many different manga art styles out there. They're not all the same. You're going to find something that really clicks with you. The same actually does go for comics as well. The problem is that the Western comic book industry, and there actually needs to be a differentiation, American versus European. The Europeans go for quality. The thing is that by the European comic book industry focusing so much on quality means that they can't crank out stuff as fast as the manga industry does, because the manga industry absolutely uses and abuses their workers. So that's one of the things that kind of puts the European comic book industry on the back foot, is just that manga can absolutely overwhelm them with quantity. But the European comics just, they bring the quality. Holy cow, they do. American comic books can bring both quality and quantity to the table, but the comic book industry in America, much like Hollywood, is just geared towards following trends and whatever should make them the most money immediately right now. It's very short-sighted, and that short-sightedness ruined them the moment that they decided during the height of the culture wars, to go more for brownie points than actual dollars. And because unless you can convert those brownie points into actual brownies, what's the point? Shade says, typically manga anime will adapt manga fully. If you want to know what happens next, you just read the next volume. This is the reason why manga became bigger than comics. If you do not evolve, you will die. Well, again, I will actually push back on that. It's only recently, and I must stress recently, that anime is really, truly, faithfully adapting the source material. Because up until I'll tell you when like the shift really happened. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. When Brotherhood premiered, people were blown away by the fact that an anime would dare to so faithfully adapt what was in the manga and follow through with it. Because the original Full Metal Alchemist just went and did its own thing, which was just what was typical. You would expect the anime to go in a very different direction or be bogged down by filler. And really only stuff like the big three would try in any kind of way to stick true to the original source material, with just loads of filler while they waited to catch up, while they waited for the manga to get far enough ahead so they didn't continuously overrun it. And so it was very popular, even very expected, and it still is, for loads of anime to not faithfully adapt what is in the manga. One of the anime that I watched last year that I really enjoyed, the Guild Receptionist, absolutely went in its own direction rather than sticking true to the manga. So it's not always the case. It's only relatively recently, because Brotherhood shook up everything. Because Full Metal Alchemist was one of the most popular anime of all time, with one of the highest selling manga at the time. And then when Brotherhood came out and stayed so true to the original source material and won over the old fans who liked the anime original material, people were like, wait, what? This works? Oh, and it changed up the industry. So it's only relatively recent that anime has really thought to actually fully adapt the manga, that they use as source material. Guy says anime and manga really are very diverse, and popular, stereotypical, colorful, and loud animes don't really appeal to me. But I found this manga called Monster that I really liked. And again, you can find all different kinds of amazing manga out there that will appeal to you. It really is just that diversity that allows manga to overwhelm Western comics, both European and American. Again, if you want quality, you go European. American could pull it off. The American industry could pull it off, but because they decided to chase brownie points, they wrecked their own industry, and they've not been able to recover since. And really, that's on them. That doesn't mean that it's doomed forever, but they have a lot of reworking and retooling to do within, and they must return to well-told, well-illustrated stories. So there's that. Meanwhile, independent creators like Heartbreak Juan, who does fan fiction stuff for Deltarune, he does Deltarune fanfic comics, is doing really well, doing his own thing on Twitter. There was the guy who launched his own career doing fanfic comic strips of Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and especially Star versus the Forces of Evil. I think that was Mooring Mark. Yeah, Mooring Mark was the guy. He made his own little career just doing these fanfic comics. Now then, he will never be accepted by Disney, and he's never able to actually sell any of his work because it's all Disney property, even though it's so very fan fiction. But he was able to figure out a way to make it work. Same with Heartbreak Juan. So again, that's something to get into later for a dedicated video about how we recognize how the industry has grown stale, how it's falling apart, and what the opportunities are that we need to seize on. And again, bring that combination of passion and perseverance. Otherwise, it will not work. It says, I'm currently reading through the Record of Ragnarok manga. Oh, I've heard so many good things about that. I just haven't read it yet myself. Or Record of Lotus War is another one that I've gotten a lot of recommendations for. All right, so basically, to sum up after nearly an hour of me ranting, yeah, the entertainment industry as a whole, and again, I've actually kind of really neglected gaming. Yeah, gaming is its own just absolute mess right now because, basically because it's all about the profits. It's so all about the profits. The DLCs, the constant DLCs, buy the skins, buy the perks, buy the merch, buy the weapons, rather than just telling a good game, telling a good story within that game, or making just a very interesting, engaging game that pulls people in. Where we see some of the biggest successes in terms of gaming right now are from either independent creators or smaller studios doing their own thing. Big AAA games. Yeah, that's just, unfortunately, that's just going the way that's just falling by the wayside because they're pursuing trends and cash rather than good stories, rather than good gameplay. And creators need to know who their audience is. One of the things that was drilled into me when I studied video, and this is back in high school, but this has stayed true for 2 decades, and that is you must know your audience. If you do not know your audience, you can never deliver to them the story that they want. And while there are writers out there who will say, well, I'm just going to write what I want to write and it's going to be great. And honestly, you need to write what you want to write, but you need to make it palatable to other people. And you'll see what I mean when we look at GameOverse. Because GameOverse, like I said at the beginning of this live stream, looks like the stuff that I write. But as crazy and awesome and fun as that is, not everyone is interested in that kind of stuff, or at least immediately so. And so you need to find a way of making it palatable, presentable, consumable to others. That way they will go on this amazing adventure, this story that you've created for them. So to help illustrate that, let's shift gears and finally get on over to GameOverse. Say we shall watch through the trailer. We'll break it down a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about the writing that I see going on here, and I'll also take some time to toot my own horn because again, this just looks so much like the stuff that I write. It makes me really excited, and yeah. So let us enjoy. Gobble the Lernosaurus.
Hey, Gobbles and Stegosaurus.
Bongo Raptor. We collected all 6 of the missing vowels. Now
I love how this looks so much like the old learning games from the late 90s, early 2000s. I thought when I first pulled up the trailer, I thought this was a video game. I was like, wow, Glitch is going to give us a video game. This is not what I'm expecting.
All that's remaining left is to reunite them with the stolen captured consonants.
Well, good luck.
And then this happens. Suddenly these characters flop right on in. Now, one of the things I already kind of want to point out is just the animation style. And this is going to kind of be prominent throughout, but it's I'll be honest, this is not super high quality. This is a $300,000 show. I can already tell that by looking at it. But that doesn't actually matter, because if the story is good, and it's communicated well through the animation, it's going to be amazing.
Tell me what to take dinosaur way! Kabooth! If me can't read, nobody can.
Well, I like the animation too. The animation is great, but again, it's definitely a $300,000 animation.
Vowels, Crummuggin. If you could read, you'd have known that. Look, the letters are trying to spell something.
I love again just how it captures that old timey CD-ROM edutainment feel. It's so good. And then this happens.
We're too late.
Can't we beefed it? Time to go!
It's just the Stegosaurus just gets cut in half by the Y.
Come on, Gobbles!
Say the moment that this happened, I was like, oh, this isn't a video game. This is actually a show. Okay, so Shade asked me, Lars, explain why this is bad in your eyes. In detail. You always say that, but I did not say anything wrong with the next arc. Oh, you're talking... Okay. Shade, I have already explained in detail why Jujutsu Kaisen's final arc is not well paced. It is not well paced. I am not going to continuously rehash that one again and again and again. I am really looking forward to how the anime portrays it, but the pacing in the manga is just dead awful. It was a sunk cost fallacy that kept me going on till the very end. And then the final chapters, which most of the fan base hated, are just magnificent. Why? Because the mangaka finally ditched all of the ridiculous slowing down to over-explain stuff.
Don't let them on the planet, correct!
If they find Caboodle first, I can't let that happen. I have to
I love
find
the
him.
name of Caboodle.
Let's go!
Schlott as Caboodle is going to be the absolute fan favorite. All the merch of Caboodle.
All right, we gotta kick this up a notch, Snappers. You're so useless, and we gotta... You can spit fireballs.
Yeah?
You didn't think that was important to tell me.
I don't see what the big deal is.
Oh my God!
All right, there we have it. We got GameOverse. Shay says, I disagree with you again with manga because a lot of popularity came from the anime adaptations. I mean, you can disagree with me. You can absolutely disagree with me. Anime is there to sell the manga, but anime did not always adapt the manga properly. That was what I was saying. So you feel free to disagree with me. Disagree with me about the adaptation. Anime is there to sell the manga, but you'd be surprised how many anime have not actually adapted the manga properly. Schlott is the perfect voice. I mean, no, and it's nice to see. I mean, as much as we all love Michael Kovac, it's nice to see that Michael Kovac is not just being overused by Glitch. So, guy says, I don't really like Schlott, but getting somebody like him for a project is as impressive as it is beneficial. No, I can see where you're coming from with that guy. But again, I think that Caboodle is going to be what is going to be kind of the big winner for this particular upcoming show. And what I was saying earlier about how it's just like, yeah, you can kind of tell that the budget is low for this. That does not mean in any way that it's bad. Because when you're on a budget, that's when people get truly creative, where they get bold with what little they can do. So let's see. There was actually a part that let's see here. I mean, that's a pretty cool scene, watching just everything get annihilated and digitized right there. But just with that little bit of animation, so with this big guy right here just screaming, there is a lot that you can do. There's a lot you can convey through, again, the voice actor, but also with just how you use the camera and just a little bit of movement. And of course, good character design to convey a lot of emotion and action. You do not need to hyper animate literally every screen. So you can use just a handful of frames to tell a whole lot. The problem is, like, when you look at the newest season of One Punch Man, where it's just like one frame contains what should be an entire scene of action. And you're just like, oof. Oh man, we've walked all the way back to the days of the 1990s Berserk, and that did it better. But yeah, so then we get the fiery explosions and everything. And again, animators who are working on a budget will know when and where to put the most effort in order to get the bang for their buck. So like when I was doing the reviews of May I Ask for One Final Thing, there are people who are saying this anime is boring because it's just a painting. And I'm like, there's certain scenes where it's definitely just stuck in a couple of frames with the lips flapping. But when we get to the action, the animators saved up all of their budget for all of the action sequences where Scarlet just beats the ever-living snot out of people. And so then for that, it just felt very alive, and that helped to kind of move things along. What I'm expecting for GameOverse is that GameOverse is definitely going to kind of balance the jankiness, the janky feel of the early 90s video games that it seems to be taking inspiration from. It's going to take things slow where it needs to take things slow. And then when it's time to really animate stuff, that is where they're going to pull out all the stops and just have loads of fun with it. And again, when you are working on a budget, those are the kinds of decisions and the kind of planning that you have to do in order to make things work out. And Glitch, because they don't have a whole lot of money to throw at every single project, that means that the animators really have to get good, or they have to really think ahead. How am I going to capture everything that I possibly can and do it in a way that does not break the bank? Because even with the Amazing Digital Circus bringing in loads of money, again, there is no unlimited amount of cash. And I just have to bring this up here. This is kind of a sad thing to admit, but with GameOverse coming out, before we get a confirmation of the continuation of Knights of Guinevere, that goes to show that Knights of Guinevere has not been selling enough merch behind the scenes in order to justify a continuation of the series. But that Glitch does have the resources on hand to continue the series. So again, for people who want more Knights of Guinevere, they absolutely must buy more merch for Knights of Guinevere, and they must share the show with more people. That is the only way. That it's going to get officially greenlit. And I know that Glitch wants to make this happen. Dana Terrace wants to make this happen. But they need to make sure that it's viable. Because even though Glitch seems like a huge moneymaker, they can't rely on the Amazing Digital Circus to forever write blank checks. That is very important to note. Guy says, I remember hearing a quote recently relating to that idea. To achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. That is a great quote. That is a great quote. And I feel that. Oh, I feel that in my soul. What makes a good game have a good game? Like, oh, have a good story. Having both. Yes, but it's also knowing how to merge the two together. So, like, let's take, for instance, Deltarune. Popping back on over to Deltarune gameplay for a moment. If you were to have the game of Deltarune by itself, just like as written prose, written in a book, sure, it could be interesting and engaging, but part of what makes Deltarune so interesting is the fact that it's a video game that is asking you as the player to interact with Chris, to control Chris, to seep yourself into the game. You are part of the story, yet you are not exactly sure how. It's a brilliant way of merging together third person and second person storytelling in a first person perspective. That's wild and crazy to think about right there. Like, Toby Fox is bending all kinds of rules. And that's something that you can really only achieve through a video game. Trying to bring together third, second, and first person perspectives into a book would be really asking a lot of the reader to continuously juggle how they're supposed to think and interact with the text. And so a video game can do that far more seamlessly, as well as then adding in all of the lore and whatnot that you can interact with. By making Deltarune not a book, but a video game, it brings aspects of the story far better to life. But the video game must then complement that kind of story. You could have Deltarune be something like the game Destiny, totally first person with all of this great animation and all these cool epic scenes and great in-depth battles. And sure, it could work that way, but then you might actually find yourself not paying so much attention to the story as you should. And in fact, thinking about Destiny, that's one of the things that really kind of bit Destiny in the rear, was that Destiny became more known for its first-person shooting rather than its lore. And then when people began to realize that, oh, there actually is a story involved, they're like, sweet, a story! But then the story in the first part of Destiny wasn't written very well. And so it was just, it was not a good combination. Destiny is the game that just continues to limp on somehow. When it gets good, it gets really good. When it's bad, it's bad. And so for Toby Fox, he had to find a way of telling a very in-depth story and tell it in a way that was complemented by the game. And so it's not just as simple as, oh, have a great game, have a great story. It's about knowing the mechanics of the game, how the game should look, and merging that with how the story is supposed to feel. Same thing actually goes for books. Like, for instance, writing kids' books. I like to have, like, I want, like, unless I'm going to do, like, a very picture-oriented book, well, of course I'm going to write good prose and whatnot in there. But to keep a kid's attention, there needs to be there also needs to be good illustrations there. And so that's changing the makeup of the book. And where you place those illustrations really do matter. It's very discombobulating to read a book that's got illustrations in it, but the illustrations are placed in a spot of the book where it just does not match up with the text. New animations for Glitch. Oh yeah, Darkest Daydreams. We got a new show for Glitch. And Turtle and G Turtle 10X is here. Great to have you here, G Turtle. So yeah, say GameOverse. That just looks so great. So yeah, I'm excited for GameOverse to come out in May. And again, what I see going on here is just, I love it. This is kind of along the lines of stuff that I myself write. World hopping. But not just simply hopping from world to world, but you're hopping from story to story. And that's a little bit different. That's another level of world hopping. There are other books and shows and games that have actually done this, where you're jumping from game to game or story to story. from book to book. And those are just always very interesting to me. As someone's like, yeah, how would characters from different worlds interact, especially when they are bound to certain rules or to a certain animation type. And so, like, for instance, in my book Monarch Mercenaries, there's a whole fight scene involving an anime character, droids that are very much solid. You got characters who are flesh and blood. You've got aliens. You've got a troll with cybernetic technology, living statues, magical pirates. And so all of just these different ideas, different worlds, even different animation, all interacting in one big ridiculous fight. I should actually pull that out a little bit later. And it just, if you are able to do it well, it just brings this neat concept to life. It basically takes when you were playing as kids, and I hope you did this as a kid, where you're there with your friends or with your siblings, and you've got characters from like different movies or different shows or different games, and you just begin merging it together. Like when I was in elementary school, we'd be talking about like, well, what if Cloud summoned Pikachu to fight against Safer Sephiroth? As dumb as that sounds for us kids, and really actually, and also at the same time, it actually sounds really cool. For us kids, that was like the world, like, oh my gosh, yes, you summon Pikachu to take down Saber Sephiroth. But of course, Saber Sephiroth is going to try to kill Pikachu. And so, like, what would you do? Well, I pull out the golden gun from the GoldenEye video game. It's like, that's a completely different video game. It doesn't belong here. Well, it does now. Okay, Cloud summons Pikachu and gives Pikachu the golden gun. Golden gun one-shot Saber Sephiroth. But wait! Sephiroth just returns again. Ah! And now the world begins getting torn apart by just too much weirdness going on. What's going to happen next? As kids, we played around with all of these different ideas, and we just had fun with them. Having a world-hopping story, where again, you're not necessarily hopping from planet to planet, but you're hopping from story to story, brings to life that childhood memory and that childhood desire to take the stories and the worlds that you really love and just smash them together in a fun way. And so that's what I being the true potential of GameOverse. Granted, there's going to be its own whole story where the main characters, Kid and Caboodle, are actually trying to stop the games from being completed, because completed games get destroyed. They actually need to stop the heroes from being heroic, and they need to let bad guys win in some cases, while at the same time trying to stop the bad guys from doing other things. And so it's just this insane catch-22, and I'm here for it. I saw this one plot at one point where a whole bunch of different stories get isekai'd into the real world, and they all interact with each other in the world in their own unique ways. Yes. What you're thinking right there, I think you are thinking of Recreators. That is such a good show. Holy cow. And it's nowhere near as loved as it should be. It's so good. G-Troll says, do you think Kid and Caboodle are from the same game or different games? I think they're from different games. I think we're going to find, my guess is that we're going to come across at least 4 different video games throughout this story. Wherever Kid and Caboodle are from, this whole shark, the shark that breathes fire, of course, the Lurnosaurus game, and then probably the game from wherever that big techno Frankenstein dude comes from. So it's like a reboot then. A reboot of what, though? Definitely, though, a reboot of the feel of old late 90s, early 2000s edutainment games. I says that does sound very familiar. I have to watch that maybe again. I have to watch it regardless. Yeah, oh yeah, Recreators is absolutely worth the watch if you have the time for it. So good. So yeah, I love world hopping. World hopping is one of my favorite things. I love portal fantasy. This is definitely more along the lines of a portal fantasy story, at least how it's so far being pitched. And funny thing is that Wreck-It Ralph is actually technically a portal fantasy story because you've got characters from different video games being able to interact with each other via technological slash magical portals. So I love portal fantasy, but I especially love it when portal fantasy doesn't just simply lead to going to other worlds, but again, bringing stories together. And I think that because again, for me, that just takes childhood and brings it to life the way that kids see these stories and sees the world. Yeah, this did make me think of Wreck-It Ralph a lot. Yeah, it definitely has some Wreck-It Ralph feels, but without at least as far as we've seen so far, without a central hub of a game console or all the games being plugged into the same extension cord. And Indie Cross, yeah. So I'm really excited for this to see how they pull this off. And again, this has to make me rethink. Holy cow! What on earth is how good has Glitch been doing? And the reason that I say that is because I was like, okay, so I'm gonna wreck it. Planet explodes. Yep. That's kind of what we just saw right there. Let me take a drink of water. Good water. Stay hydrated. All right, so with Glitch Productions and their announcement of a brand new show, it's great that they're doing another 2D animated show. I think that to what that says to me is that when they were looking at stuff like helping to boost Lackadaisy and then talking with Dana Terrace, I think that behind the scenes, Kevin and Luke were like, you know what? 2D would be really, really cool to get into. And everyone says that 2D animation is dying or dead. But Indie's looking like it's trying to keep it alive. And so long as people want to tell great stories through 2D animation is going to stay alive. Hollywood might not care for it, but you know what? That's actually kind of to their loss. Especially if Knights of Guinevere can finally get fully greenlit and tell its whole story. And if GameOverse is able to tell an amazing story and also tell them full, it'll be clear evidence that 2D animation is not on the way out. It's just that, again, Hollywood's just not giving it the proper care and attention that it needs to flourish under their care. And if that's the case, then indie animation will be where it thrives. And as we see through Glitch, that's viable. Now, as far as the economics of it goes, and I kind of have to now rethink things a little bit, because my whole conservative take on things is I didn't want to blow their success too far out of proportion. I was like, okay, so realistically speaking, 1 million views will get you anywhere between $1,000 to $6,000 in ad revenue. So that's usually what you're looking at when it comes to earnings you can make on YouTube. And I was saying for the longest time that Glitch was looking at getting about $3,000 per million views, which, I mean, I wouldn't mind that kind of money, especially with the views that they're getting. And so I was like, okay, so for instance, when you look at something like The Amazing Digital Circus, its pilot episode, with 400 million views times $3,000. Okay, it's time now to do some math. So some real heavy math right here. You're looking at $1.2 million. Okay, well, sweet. That's really great. Now, granted, that's money that they have gotten over time. That did not all come into the bank on day one. But based on what we're seeing with how the Amazing Digital Circus has been able to up its own production quality over time. Seriously, each episode just keeps getting and looking better and better. So you can tell that they're putting the money in there. But now they've been able to work on the Gaslight District. Gaslight District is getting a full season. They did one episode of Knights of Guinevere in hopes that it would get greenlit. And now they're doing the Gameoverse. Plus, if I'm right, they put down $2 million to help out Lackadaisy. That is a whole lot of cash that they have to invest. And again, it's about $300,000 per episode if you're going for the low end of what Hollywood recommends for making any show. And given all of the effort that goes into every Glitch episode, I would not be surprised if it is at least $300,000, not maybe more. So yeah, that's a whole lot. Now, granted, there's also the merchandise sales, which go very, very well for Glitch. But like again, when we think about it here, so like if we do the math, we're gonna do the math, as one of my high school teachers would say. You gotta do your math. We've got 9 episodes of the Amazing Digital Circus. 9 times 300,000. And granted, they've even probably put even more into making that work. When you add all that up, that is $2.7 million invested in making the Amazing Digital Circus. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to make up in ad revenue and in merchandise sales. Now, across all of their episodes, let's just do this real quick. We're gonna take a look over at Glitch Productions, and let's have a look at their views for the Amazing Digital Circus. So you got 406 million to 176 million. So you're already right there looking at 482 plus another 82 million for episode 3. So you're looking at 564. Oh boy, math. Then when you add in episode 4, 681, 772, then 873, and then finally 426. Whew. Okay, then. So, coming back to it. Math time. So, 826. Again, if we go with the conservative route, 826 times 3,000. I will pull out the calculator for this, just that way I know that I know that I haven't skipped something with my brains. So 826 times 3,000 gets you $2.478 million. So, just based off of ad revenue alone, the Amazing Digital Circus would actually lose Glitch Productions money just in terms of ad revenue. This is then obviously where the merchandise comes into play, because they've been selling their merchandise pretty well. And their whole calculation for it is that the ad revenue must cover 20% of production, and merch must cover 80%. That is their formula. If a show cannot meet that formula, it does not get greenlit, and that's the problem. And again, that's the problem with Knights of Guinevere, is that Knights of Guinevere is not pulling in the merch necessary to cover that 80% merch sales to continue on with the show. So if we take it as that Glitch Productions met that formula for the amazing digital circus, and the 400 million for the pilot did not come all at once. It was actually over 100 million, just over 100 million. So if they're like, okay, then, so we want to have that whole 20% to 80%, 20% to 80%. So if we then do 100 times 3,000, that gets us our whole 300,000 for the very first episode. And maybe it wasn't exactly 20 to 80, but very likely they were looking after that first episode at having been able to sell around $300,000 worth in merch. Sweet. Okay, it's viable. We continue on going. And if each episode has been cranking out comparable numbers, that means that across 7 episodes thus far, they have 9 episodes that they're working on. It'll be a total of 9 episodes, but across 7 episodes, then so far, of maybe looking at anywhere between $100,000 to $300,000 worth made in merchandising revenue. That means that you could be looking at anywhere between $700,000 to $2.1 million made in merch money. So, huzzah! That covers the rest. But wait, we also still have to cover the Gaslight District. We have to cover Knights of Guinevere. We've got to cover GameOverse. We also have to cover a lot of the other things that they've done. Remember, they also have Glitch In, which costs money to make and to maintain. They also did their own little racing video game, which, even though it wasn't like Mario Kart racing, still money went on into that. Those are all investments. And let's not forget Lackadaisy as well. The money that has gone into helping to support Lackadaisy. So that is a whole ton of money. That is then, if we're then thinking about, okay, if I'm correct in believing that they dropped $2 million to help make Lackadaisy possible and have an equal partnership between Iron Circus, Glitch Productions, and whoever they're partnering with in Hollywood, again, that's about $2 million put down based on the available numbers, figures, and math that we've got. So, $2 million plus then $300,000 for beginning each one of those shows. That's $2.9 million that needs to be covered. But their merch sales just from the Amazing Digital Circus alone wouldn't cover that. And here's then the if we are just going by the 3,000, because the 3,000 is the conservative number that I was going with here. But if we up it, let's say we go for 4,000, or maybe it's even as high as 5,000. To get $6,000 per million views, people have to watch literally to the very end of your video. Your video needs to have a 90 to 100% retention rate, which Glitch could very well have, or maybe they don't. But if we use $4,000 against 826 million views just for the Amazing Digital Circus, because that's really where their big money maker is, that is $3.3 million that Glitch could have made. And so then once you then think of ad revenue in that case, that has already then covered the entire investment, or at least the base investment for the Amazing Digital Circus, leaving you with $600,000 available to immediately then invest in 2 other shows. And then all of the merchandising sales on top of that is just gravy. And I think that that's probably now what we have to think about in terms of how Glitch has been doing. And coming back to thinking about, okay, well, what about us novice creators? very, very few novice authors, artists, programmers, directors, game makers, the likes, will ever have this kind of success. I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. I wish all of us could just be rolling in this kind of success, rolling in this kind of dough, and telling amazing stories, whatever those stories are. Which is why it's important then that we need to reconsider what exactly is our goal, our aim. What is it that we want to make come to life? What is our story that we wish to tell? How do we want to tell it? And then, given the resources that we have available, we adjust, we adapt, and we start working. We start pressing on ahead. And that will be the topic for the last video in the little three mini series of videos that I'm doing, where I've looked already at the state of the entertainment industry, how it just seems like it's falling apart, it's burning down. What I've just touched on here with the figures that you guys have seen go there into the chat, that is going to be the topic of the second video. Again, looking at how Glitch is doing. Glitch is not going to take Mickey's head. Disney is not going to fall because indie studios suddenly start doing really good. Disney is too big to entirely fail. If Disney were to suddenly start really biting the dust, they would just sell off their properties that they feel they could divulge and then double down on whatever's making the money right now. Disney would probably then actually become a sports betting company because that's where they're making their best money. Oh boy, oh Disney, how you've fallen. But yeah, that would be Disney. Disney will survive whatever comes. If Disney is ever to fall apart, it will fall apart because the leadership at the top bankrupt it and then sell it for scraps. And that is a whole lot harder to do to a massive monopoly like Disney than people would think. It's not that easy to take down. But just because Disney isn't going to bite the dust, and because Warner Brothers isn't just simply going to bite the dust, or Skydance isn't just simply going to bite the dust one day, doesn't mean that indie animation, for instance, isn't winning. It's winning because their vision is to tell great stories. They have looked at what kinds of means they have available to make that happen. Kevin and Luke and their company have empowered selected artists to tell the stories that they wanted to tell. They've encouraged them to tell them the best way that they can. Those stories then have to fall or stand on their own merits. Some, like Murder Drones and The Amazing Digital Circus, have been met with wild success. Gaslight District has been a little bit more divisive, but it got greenlit, so it was successful enough. Knights of Guinevere, which I really want to see made into a full series, has not been as successful. We'll see how GameOverse does. And we'll see how Lackadaisy does when it becomes a full series. It's already done well enough with fans that it's been able to get greenlit and go forward. And that it's earned so much attention that Glitch was even willing to invest highly in its production. And so when we think about these shows, and then we look at the numbers, these are numbers that Hollywood scoffs at. These are not numbers that keep large production studios running. And that's true. But then that's also okay. Because Glitch Productions is not a huge Hollywood conglomerate. It's an indie studio that wants to tell great stories. And as Kevin Luke said, to tell stories that were geared towards that older teenage and young adult audience. And tell somewhat darker stories, but also embrace kind of the silliness, embrace the potential of animation. And that's what Glitch has been doing. And so from that perspective, they've been very successful. And the money goes to show that it's not that they haven't just been successful, they've been wildly successful. And because they've been wildly successful and have been charting new courses for indie animation, it opens up future opportunities for other storytellers and creators. Some people might end up working with Glitch to tell amazing stories. Others might follow in their footsteps and make their own little studios or begin working with an association of other artists to make their stories come about. But what we see is that there are people who are just hungry for great stories. They're hungry for stories told in a unique way. And one of the biggest things that Glitch has proven, that it seems really silly, like this should actually be a duh, but Hollywood doesn't believe it, and neither do the publishing houses. That older teens and people in their 20s and early 30s want to go to the movies. They want to watch television. They want to read comics. They want to read great books. They want to be entertained by this kind of stuff. Believe it or not, Hollywood does not believe that. They say that the people from ages 18 to 30, that's a black hole. Those people will never pay for anything. Now, granted, I'm 36, so I'm now officially part of their statistics. We're like, yes, Lars, yes, you will buy stuff. You do want to watch stuff. But back when you were 18 to 30, oh no, you didn't care. You didn't care figs about watching stuff or enjoying stuff. Oh no. Oh, because you were too stupid for that. That is how the entertainment industry has treated a massive portion of the population, not just in America, but worldwide. And that's really, really stupid. Glitch Productions has shown, by catering to that particular demographic, that there are loads of people in that age range who want great stories, who want stuff like Murder Drones, The Amazing Digital Circus, Gaslight District, Knights of Guinevere, and hopefully GameOverse. And if GameOverse does really well, holy cow, I'm going to ride that and say, hey, look, if you're loving GameOverse and you can't wait for the next episode, check out my book, Mercenaries. This is the magic that you're looking for. Or check out my series, A Legend of the Ten Lords, because you will get those world-hopping shenanigans. You will get those big stakes. You will get those very colorful characters. You will get those stories clashing. If that's the kind of stuff that you love from GameOverse, you're going to love my books. Oh, you definitely will. And so, as Kevin Lucas said when we help rise the tides, when we help raise one boat, we're actually raising everyone else. Their successes provide opportunities to me as a book writer. They also help to provide opportunities to other animators, to comic book artists, to composers who seize on the inspiration provided by these amazing stories. For instance, ISO has brought up how Murder Drones was a huge inspiration for him. You wouldn't have been able to get that, ISO might not have gotten as far as he has without something like Murder Drones. Other people, while there's been plenty of content farmers who have absolutely used and abused the Amazing Digital Circus, there have been other people who have done pretty amazing things with the Amazing Digital Circus. And again, coming back to stuff like Gravity Falls and Star vs. the Forces of Evil, basically launched a career for a guy like Mooring Mark. And then other people are like, you know what? What I see you guys doing makes me inspired to kind of tell my own story, do my own thing. And then they go out and do. And so the inspiration is there. The tools are there. Connectivity is better than ever before. And while the mainstream entertainment industry is in the state that it's in, and it's harder to utilize its resources, that doesn't mean that those resources aren't available to us. We just have to come at them in a very different way. And that there's other opportunities that have been created either by proxy or by accident that allow us to now take our stories or take our ideas and transform them into tangible stories that other people can now enjoy. He says, because teens have zero way to pay for what they want. I point you to Bionicle Gen 2 when it was released 10 years ago. It was released way too early, and the sets were too expensive. And I will say that came down more to marketing and production. One of the things is that, teens might not have a whole lot of spendable cash on hand. A lot of it is asking mom and dad for help, or getting a job and then working to have just enough money to pay for gas to get to work, and then saving enough to do what they want to do if they're not spending it on their boyfriend or girlfriend. But teens find ways of buying stuff. You'd be surprised. When I was a high school teacher, there were lots of teenagers who either managed to save up their allowances or who saved up money from the job they were working at, or managed to beg mom and dad or grandma and grandpa for just enough money to buy a book, a comic book, a video game, or tickets to whatever it is that they liked. Teenagers and young adults want to own stuff. They want to be entertained. They want to have entertaining experiences. And so even though they might not have as much money as an older person with a reliable job, they are still a market that can be tapped into. And what Glitch has done very smartly is by putting everything onto YouTube and making it free. That means that if you want to support them, all you got to do is watch. If you really want to support them, you then buy their merch, which, yeah, can be a little bit expensive, but if you save up, you can buy a plushie and a poster, and then boom, you got it. So that's the model that's really helping to push Glitch forward. And that's honestly, I think, kind of the model that creators who are looking to make a living off of doing what they love doing have to take into consideration. There's only so much money that anyone has to spend, and they can't spend it all on you, and they most likely won't spend it all on you. So what are ways then that you can make yourself monetizable or say bankable without breaking another person's bank? Giving people a story that they will absolutely love and that they'll come back to again and again and again, and they'll want to support you in whatever way they can, and then making things just affordable enough so that way you're not losing out, and people can buy what you're selling. That is its own tricky business right there. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, no, like think about yourself first and foremost. Get the money that you need. And I can understand where they're coming from. But again, just understand that everyone only has so much money. Everyone only has so much time. And one of the hardest things to do as a storyteller is to convince people to spend their time and their money on you. And I think that that's where a lot of people end up stumbling, even when they manage to get their story fully created, is that they have a hard time knowing how to properly market what they've got, which is what Glitch Productions actually covers. By giving total creative control on over to people like Liam and Gooseworks and Part-Time Seagull, those people can then focus entirely on their stories, while Glitch Productions then focuses on the advertising and the money side of things in order to make sure that it all works out. So there you go. There's a breakdown. The breakdown of the finance aspect. And yeah, again, I understand that for a lot of people, like looking at this kind of stuff and looking at what these people are doing, it might seem like you might never get there, and maybe you never will. I mean, I'll be honest. I have ideas for comic books that I would love to do. They will probably never happen. However, I could still tell my stories. And maybe I just have to find a better way of telling the story that still meets my vision, but also fits within the realms of reality. Let me take a quick drink right here. So, an example that I will throw out from some of my own works. There's a story that I've wanted to tell now for years that I call Misventures. And I know how it's supposed to look. I wanted it to be a graphic novel done in the style of Don Bluth's animation, specifically The Secret of Nim. That's how I envision these characters. That's how I envision this world, just rich and so deep. Good 80s quality animation. But making something like that happen is a little bit more difficult than you'd expect. It's also very expensive. And so recently I was thinking it over. I'm like, I really do want to tell this story one day. One of the reasons why I haven't sat down to write is because I really just wanted the artwork. But in a conversation with my sister, who was supposed to be the illustrator for the story, but it hasn't worked in so long. What I've come to realize is I just need to sit down and write Misventures. I need to make it like a manageable book, and then find a good artist who can capture that Don Bluth style, and maybe not make a graphic novel, but instead make the kind of novel filled with artwork that I personally would love to see, and just then work together with that artist to make that happen. And then, even though it might not fit the whole vision that I originally had, I can still tell the story of misadventures with these crazy sewer critters on a quest to save a little mouse village from being overrun by a gang of conquering dogs. I can still tell that story, even without a graphic novel, and I can tell it well. And then the artwork is just there to help enhance the experience. And that's how I need to think more about this. And if I can go for that particular angle, if I can capture that, then I can do a whole lot better. I can make Misadventures what I really want it to be. And maybe then that will give me more experience towards ever figuring out if I could make a graphic novel or a comic series work. Taking those baby steps, but just realizing, okay, Misadventures doesn't need to be a graphic novel, but I can still make it a novel with a lot of sick artwork. I just have to put the effort into it to make that now happen. G Turtle says, there's lots of stories I want to tell, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to, but just chatting about them with friends is something that makes me feel good too. G Turtle, you have landed on something that I talked about in the video I uploaded today that is just so real. Sharing stories is so good. And maybe for some of us, we never really get beyond that. But our stories need us, and we need our stories. And even just talking about the stories that we have in mind already brings them to life to a certain degree. And sharing them with other people allows for those stories to play a role in their lives as well. Because the world needs our stories. My story for Whitefire, which I've talked about in previous live streams, Whitefire would never exist if I hadn't listened to Nathan and Camille talking about their stories with dragons. And I love dragons, but I wasn't exactly sure if I wanted to write a story with dragons. It's like dragons, they're just too cliche. But man, hearing Nathan and Camille just have so much fun with their own stories about dragons, I'll admit, I felt left out. I kind of got a little jealous. And I'm like, I also need to tell a dragon story. Dang it, I got to do it. Because I love dragons. If I love dragons, why am I not doing a story about dragons? If they're having so much fun with these stories about dragons, I want to have fun with a story about dragons. So I got to make this happen. And while Whitefire has yet to be fully written, that's my goal for next year. Next year, I am writing the first full complete draft of Whitefire. I am dedicating most of the year to making that happen. But I have written Tumblteller, which is a kind of light prequel to Whitefire. And having the chance to write that, oh my gosh, that was just such an incredible experience. And for the people who've read Tumblteller, they're like, this is a great book. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And they're like, I never thought before of telling a story about dragon storytellers or dragon bards. Like, this is really, really cool. And so, again, like, I would never have gotten to that point without Nathan and Camille sharing their stories with me. As a result, a story started coming alive within my heart that I realized I needed. And then that story needed me, obviously, to come to life. And as the story's been coming to life slowly but surely, and as a portion of it has come to the world, people have begun to realize, holy cow, I really like this. I need this. I need this story. And I'm like, wow, I need this story too. It's so true. You need your stories. Your stories need you. And the world needs your stories. Junior Troll says, oh, I had a similar experience with a dude who told me about his D&D character. It was like a watcher of the multiverse and inspired me to make my own version of that character. It's so cool how stories work that way. Oh, yeah. We draw inspiration from other people, and they draw inspiration from us. It's one of the key things to my Legend of the Ten Lords series. It's a portal fantasy where your imagination is your magic. What you imagine is what you can make happen. And so bringing together all of these various imaginations and people and what they want and everything and how that all plays out, it's just so much fun to write. And that's why when I look at something like GameOverse, I'm like, that's what I've been writing all these years. And I'm so happy that there's other people out there who kind of think that same way. And I'm so excited to see what they do. And if they do it really well, that gives me a chance to get my stuff out there even more so. So I'm really excited about this. Alrighty. So I think with all that being said, I think I'm going to start wrapping up for the evening. I want to go outside and enjoy some of the cold rain, some of that good cold wintry rain. So excited that it's raining. You guys have no idea. I live in a desert. I don't get to enjoy this all that often. So I'm going to take advantage of it while I can. Also to do a little bit of writing and some editing still before tomorrow, because oh boy, tomorrow is going to be a really, really busy day. I didn't share this with you guys, but last week I got into a car accident. I got rammed from behind while I was stopped at a traffic light, and so I've been dealing with the immediate physical fallout of that, which thankfully I'm doing well. Still have a little bit of a crick in my back and a little bit of soreness in my shoulder. But other than that, I'm doing well. But now I gotta do stuff with my car. So I gotta go and try to find a new door for my car before handing it on over to the appraisers to find out what the car is really worth, if they're going to total it, insurance, all that good jazz. So much stuff to do. So I shouldn't be staying up way too late. Also, in thinking about D&D, I'll be playing D&D tomorrow, which is going to eat up a lot of time. And so yeah, this evening the evening isn't just say it would be fun to just keep on chatting for the rest of the evening, but I'm going to enjoy the weather, and there's stuff I got to do to get ready for tomorrow. Sorry, Comic Craft, you're coming in literally right as we are, right as I'm about to wrap up. But thanks for asking. I am feeling better. Definitely feeling better than I was doing last weekend, and I hope I just continue to get better. The cough is still around right now, sucking on a cough drop to try to keep the sore throat taken care of. But yeah, thanks for asking. And yeah, G-Troll, it's great having you here, and it's great chatting. So, guys, with all that said, I think now's a good time and a good place to end. For next week, though, give you guys a little bit of a preview for our next live stream. I will be sharing with you guys some of the world building that I've been doing for Whitefire, and I am going to open it up to a Q&A. I want you guys to grill me on the world that I'm creating, on the stuff that I'm going to present to you guys. Hopefully you can help me out, and maybe you guys will get some inspiration from that, and we'll also just see whatever other topics come to mind. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good time. Omega, you want to post the link for Foundation game? Yeah, sure. I'd say this: try posting the link in the comments, not in the chats. You can do that. What day I'll be there? So the next live stream should also be on a Friday. I right now do not foresee anything getting in the way of doing a fun live stream next Friday. So we shall make it so on that day, and it shall be loads of fun. So everyone, thank you so much again for joining me tonight, or at least tonight where I'm at. And I wish you a fantastic evening, morning, day, wherever you are at. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.